Hey guys, it's the Dark Show. Hope you enjoy this story. Pigment in the Woods. For a 10-year-old kid, the worst part of getting lost in the woods in northwest Wingrove is the darkness. At first it seems bearable. You're bundled up in a warm, heavy perker gifted by Mom last Thursday, and you think, hey, it's gonna be okay. At least that's what I told my best friend Sean. He was older than me, maybe about 4 years, and I wanted to prove I wasn't scared. Only a kid would think of something stupid like that after everything that had just happened. The snow was coming down steadily now, in white waves that made it nearly impossible to see. At least 3 inches had poured up on the hard ground in the past hour, and we had seen a path or nick in the last mile. The only reason we stopped running was because Sean fell. Unless, do you think he is looking for us? I stuttered, quickly receding my bravery. Our parents probably haven't even noticed we're gone yet, he said, groaning pitiful as he tried to stand on his twisted ankle. I wasn't talking about them, I whispered back. But he was probably right. We had come up to the reserve on a trip organized by the parents in our neighborhood. Back home for them, it was an opportunity for divorces to get drunk in the woods and share a sleeping bag. For us, it was an endless empire of exploring possibilities and I don't know, kid stuff. Sean and I had deserved a plan for the weekend, a week before we even got to the woods. Once our dads conked out on their fourth or fifth twisted tea, we would sneak out and meet somewhere behind the tents. From there, the woods were the only logical next step. The only reason Nick was even in on the plan was because we caught him listening in at the top of the basement steps doing our nightly planning. We dragged him downstairs, tied him up, where he, of course, threatened to rat unless he was included. We caved. As soon as we got there, the plan went swimmingly. Our dads ganged up with a few of the local moms after dinner and told the kids it was lights out. We faked an extended agreement that ended with a promise of fishing in the morning by them, and the murder agreements had to make it look real. After exactly 20 minutes, I slid out of my tent in the pitch black and taped a log behind Sean and Nick's tent 5 times. I discussed immediately after the brothers emerged noisily and arguing. Do you ever stop crying? Should have brought warmer pants, I told you every fucking time. Sean figured, nearly as loud as the drunk giggling taking place 20 yards away in front of the fire. Shut the hell up, I whispered fantastically. Let's go before we get caught and grounded. We circled around the camp, searching for a path into the woods, all the while eyeing our parents to ensure they weren't looking our way. Soon enough, we realized there wasn't much of a path, but the trees were far apart enough. With a apprehensive look to Sean, I reached down and grabbed the best branch beating stick I could find. The other two followed suit, and we set off into the darkness. When we were maybe 20 feet in the darkness enveloped us, I used my stick to feel the air 5 feet in front of me for trees or other unseen obstacles. After a quick argument, we grabbed onto each other's jacket sleeves just to make sure we didn't get lost. Luckily, we did think to pack one smart thing, a decaying plastic flashlight. It bounced along happily with each step shifting between the small of my back and now crushed peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But we were nervous. Our parents would see the light in the blackness and call the whole thing off before it even began. So when we felt confident enough that we were out of visible range of the tent, I pulled it out and turned it on. By that point, our camp must have been a mile behind us. We could no longer hear the giggles or talking or see the fire. We cheered quietly. After another quick argument between Sean and Nick about what to do with our newfound freedom. We settled on a round of truth or dare in the wilderness. The first dare was on me. Matt, we'll keep it easy to start. I dare you to go 200 steps into the dark and wait 1 minute. Then came back a walking stick. Sean announced. I sniggered, a bit relieved that I had landed the first and easiest of the dares. I murmured agreement and set off on my nonchalant march into the blackness. I couldn't see a thing, and I dropped my branch, as per the rules. When the first tree hit me in the face like a wall, I naturally shouted in surprise. Watch a draw resisted chuckle from the idiots behind me. At least they were getting along now. Eventually I hit the step count, called out to the guys, and waited for the full minute, counting it off in a raised whisper. I knew they would hear as I hit 30 seconds. I began to hear heavy, weighted footsteps behind me. Guys, is that you? I called out. The footsteps sounded closer now. I heard leaves drag crackly underneath them. What are you talking about? We're still over here. I'm coming back. I started to jog, with quickly turned into sprint as I heard the bushes to the right of me rattle. Soon after I nearly knocked Nick off his feet as we collided. What's your problem? Sheen shouted, stepping between me and his brother like I threw on a punch. I heard something and I ran. Must have been an animal. Let's find a better place for the next dare. He slugged me on the arm and called me a wimp, but he seemed spooked as well. We walked for another mile or so before we come across the perfect spot. There was a narrow creek that ran through the center of the open clearing. From here, we had far better visibility than we did in the trees, as their silver moon reflected off the rushing water. We sat down in a triangle, making sure each of us was watching one direction with the flashlight in the center. All the while, each of us openly claimed we weren't scared at Sheen's instance. We can turn back if you babies want to, he repeated. Because it was my dare last, I was the one to pick someone next. I decided to keep it tame and dared Sean to tell a scary story that was X-rated. I knew this would work only because more talking only fed Sean's big ego further. He started it immediately with something he had definitely found on the internet. One night, 3 kids were out on the Moonies, New Jersey, not quite like this one. Suddenly, in response, the trees at the end of our clearing creaked loudly. There was no wind, but we could all hear it. Nick, what do you see? Sean asked, clearly too afraid to turn around. There's nothing there. The bushes are just moving, he stumbled. It's just a raccoon. You're just being a crybaby, as usual, he said with a ragged confidence. I continued. I barely even got to start. Anyway, 3 kids were out in the woods. Sean continued his story for a few minutes, but his voice strained out. For me, at least, I was focused on the bushes, in the side of the clearing only I could see. In the distance, the bushes were moving, but there had been wind all night. In flash of no more than a second movement, exploding a flurry of leaves, as a shape burst into my line of sight. It had to be no more than a quarter-mile away, but it was tall. It was hard to tell in the darkness, but it looked to be a man, and yet the way he was running was almost animalist. He was sprinting at us full speed like his life depended on it. As he approached the hill above us, in mere seconds, he fell to all fours. He trotted the distance giddily. I raised my voice to yell, but found my voice catch in my throat. Guys, I choked out quietly. In a moment, the man was more than 20 feet in front of me, and behind Nick and Sean, but I was the only one who could see him. He stood to his normal posture casually and brushed the light dirt off his back, turtleneck, and pants. At first, his clothing actually seemed normal enough, like an athletic moonlight jogger who had lost his way. But something about his face didn't seem quite right, and I couldn't see it clearly in the darkness. Guys, I said again, louder now. The man soon realized he had an audience when he saw me looking at him, and heard me whisper. His response was just as terrifying now as it was then. In a disturbed and almost laughable way, a circus clown would when teasing guests. He then slid to the right and slightly frowned, creeping along his tippy toes like he was a cat quietly hunting a mouse, which each the sidestep forward. He closed the distance between us more as long. Stringly black hair swung from his shoulders and his curved head like wet dreadlocks. As we got closer, I saw the problem with his face. He wearing the skin of a dead and slaughtered pig head like a mask. "Guys!" I shouted, standing up. When he was a mere 5 feet behind Sean and Nick, he paused with his gloved hands held neatly behind his back. "What are you complaining about now, kid? I'm trying to tell a story here," Nick yelled infinitely and authoritatively. The man cleared his throat and spoke in response. His voice was guttered, muffled noise with accent that cracked and groaned like an old floorboard. "Are 3 tiny little piggies lost in the woods?" Nick and Sean nearly jumped out of the skin. They stumbled backwards, turning around quickly to see who it was behind them. Sean got away, but Nick didn't. The man lunged forward and grabbed the poor kid by his arm, pulling him back effectively as he pulled out a small hunting knife and tossed it up in the air before catching it with a choked laugh. "Give one, get away," he said with a rusted voice. "Give me back my brother, you fucking freak." Nick rode it deftly, searching for his beaten stick as he crawled back further. The pigman laughed again, a cruel giggle that came through heavily through the slits in his pig's nose and led to a curt cough. "Give one, get away," he said again. After he did, he shadowy silenced Nick's arm with a hunting knife. The poor kid cried out as his dark red blood dripped and poured in the white snow. "I'm sorry," the pigman whispered quietly. With that, he grabbed Nick by the hair and pulled him along like a rag doll as he inched towards Sean and I. "It's time to run now. Give one, get away," he said again, and said slowly, coolly, growling, impatient. "Give one, get away. Give one, get away." Sean and I booked it for the tree line the moment we felt the man's hot, disgusted breath inches from our face. Nick seized the opportunity and tried to follow us, but he was yanked back again. Angrily, he fell protectively to the snow and screamed out for us while the man watched us patiently and silently. "Guys, please, please, please no, please no, please no, please don't leave me." I'll never forget that voice for as long as I live. As we got to the edge of the clearing and into the woods, I turned back and looked for Nick and the pigmen, but they were too far away in the darkness. We found the trail almost immediately, even with Sean's sprained ankle. When we got to the camp, we screamed for the adults to wake up and help Nick. They called the police, the park rangers immediately. Within a half an hour, 20 square cars with flashing lights were parked into the narrow road in front of a camp. We all searched through the night. We were able to bring them to the exact spot Nick was taken almost immediately with the help of searchlights, but by the time we arrived, there was no sign of him or the man in the pig mask. All that was left was our testimony and collective footsteps in the snow, which was obscured here and there by the clever monster that took him. One thing that the police could figure out in the daytime, before the snow quickly melted, was that the pig man took Nick into the creek on some sort of small raft he hid in the bushes a few hundred yards away from the abandoned sites. Once they got in the water, it was impossible for them to be tracked or for dogs to pick up their scent. Nevertheless, a search party was organized throughout the vast woods. The next day, in the following weeks, Nick was the only 8-year-old poster with his picture was tacked into every traffic post and tree with a view in the state. News stations and papers ran coverage of his disappearance for a couple of days, almost everywhere, but after absolutely zero leads, his case lost interest in a couple of months, when others popped up nearby. No one ever found him, and to this day, the man in the pig mask is still unidentified. The abduction is still unsolved and the case is still open, though no actual leads have appeared in years. During that time, Sean and I both worked. Some hasn't, but though a pill include Bunch's acceptance, I cannot live much longer without at least warning you the folks listen to my shit of a few facts I know to be true. If you are a kid or if you have kids, please don't go camping alone anywhere in the Northwest United States. If you must travel together and almost bring a better weapon than a stick, please just be wary, because while I know the pigman has still be out there, I may die without knowing what he did to my best friend brother. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like this video, and I'm sorry my voice was cracking up. I'm about to lose my voice, but I appreciate watching this for me. Subscribe, like this video, and I promise keep on making better videos from this. Peace out.